Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, J.D., and Brad.
Welcome, everybody, to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm not Brad Broaddus, but I am J.D. Dameron.
And I'm Lance Tackett.
We do have a guest tonight because Brad Broaddus is a sissy.
What a sis.
J.D., Brad claims that he's sick, and I contend that there's not a more important thing that the three of us do each week than get together here on Sunday evenings and inform the nation.
Right?
And the world. I mean, we have people listening in all kinds of different countries, and we have a great responsibility to show up here every Sunday.
You know, I always look forward to him walking in with his hand in your back pocket every week.
Every week. I've missed it. I was like, how do I get in the house without his hand in my back pocket? I don't know what to do. But and JD, I left the house, and everybody knows Brad lives right beside me, and he was out back cutting wood in his underwear.
Oh, God.
Poor neighbors.
Poor me. Poor me. I live beside him. So, I don't understand, does that mean he just didn't want to come do the show with us?
Is he a brief guy? Is he a bikini guy? What was he?
He's total Speedo, dude. He was
nice.
Speedoed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's total Speedoed. So, of course, we're kidding. Brad is actually sick, and Brad, we hope you feel better if you're listening, but, you're not here, so we're going to take some shots at your expense.
I don't know what we'll do today to get by through this episode, but I think we'll be fine. Go ahead.
I think we'll be fine. I mean, we're the stars, JD, and, Brad's just here, so anyway, we do have a special guest, Lance Tackett. He is a Martin County native. He currently is enrolled at the University of Pikeville, and Lance, I don't want to butcher your introduction any more so than that. So just kind of introduce yourself to the people listening, and welcome to the Just Add Bourbon podcast.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. But I'm actually a senior at the University of Pikeville. I'll be graduating in the fall. I'm a communication major and an FMA minor, which is film and media arts, which is more of the broadcasting route. I would love to be a sports broadcaster at one point, in time. I would love to do that maybe on the side at one point, and I also would want to make a career out of it. But the more that I've went to school, and as I've worked in admissions, it's a work study that I've been doing, and I've been working with kids from all over the country, recruiting and all that kind of thing. I've kind of wanted to lean a little bit more towards teaching in terms of just the fact because, I want to make a difference in somebody's life. I want to impact somebody. I feel like that's kind of where my headspace is at because I've had a lot of people impact my life, and I kind of want to return that, to the world, and if that's kind of the way you say it. But, yeah, that's just about me. I mean, love football, love basketball, big sports guy all around. I love video games, Call of Duty. It's kind of my thing, but yeah.
Well, cool, man. We appreciate you stepping in this week and filling Brad's seat. We may have a new co-host, JD. I don't know. I mean let's see how...
You feel Brad's shoes. They're not big shoes.
they're really not. I mean, they're not big shoes to have to fill, Lance. So, you've got a shot here. And, you may decide you want to work with kids, but you may find that Just Add Bourbon Podcast is where you actually should be. I don't know.
It might be.
I'm 40 years old, but I'm actually 12. Everybody just want everybody to know that.
That's about like me. I'm 20, but I might be 6 or 7.
Yes, we have clearly shown on here that JD and I are children. Brad is our dad.
My boys.
So Brad kind of keeps us in line, Lance. So this could go off the rails pretty hard tonight. But anyway, JD, I guess before we get into what we call the meat of the show, I do want to talk a little bit about some of our social media.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it has become very clear that I no longer run the Instagram account.
I could hardly tell the difference this week.
We did. I mean, we joke every week because JD does a really good job with the Facebook page, and Brad does a good job with the Twitter page, and I do absolutely nothing with the Instagram page. And so Eric Beaudry, who has been on the show and communicates with us all the time about the topics that we talk about, told me, he was like, JD, I don't care a bit to, people call me JD too. He said, I don't care a bit to run your Instagram page. And all I can say is it's a definite step up. There's actually been posts made this week, and he posted more in one day than I had the entire time.
Yeah, because he posted once.
So, Eric, we appreciate your help, and it really has. And all jokes aside, he's done a phenomenal job with it. I mean, it's really good. So, Eric, we thank you for doing that, and people listening, check out our Instagram page because there is actually content on there now, and it is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
So, Eric, we appreciate it. So, JD, let's kind of talk a little bit. I thought we would kind of start this week, and we've done this before when Brad wasn't here. kind of talking about our weekends and what we got into. This is a real sports-heavy weekend with the All-Star Game and Daytona 500, and the Cats played. You got all that. But did you get anything good this weekend?
Man, my week has been crazy, and it ain't had a thing to do with sports. Not one sports-related event. So this week, where I work at, the coal mines, the plant has been down because they had some belt issues at the plant, and it fell on a train. So we worked a couple of days, and we was not doing much a couple of days. We go in one day, and the electric goes off on us when they send everybody home. Go in the next day, the electric's out again. When you stay outside for half a day, then go inside and work for just half a day, they send us home. But I went to, I did some comedy this past week, a Black Sheep Burrito in Huntington. Had a decent set. It was okay. But almost got in a fight.
What?
Yeah. 40-year-old me almost got in a fight. At a comedy show.
Is that an indication of how your set went?
No. My set was, it's okay. But this guy was, like, I don't care if you're, who you are, who you like, what you do in your life. I think there's an unspoken rule when you go out in public. I don't know how serious, besides don't be a dick.
Yeah.
That's the main rule. If you want to hang out with me or be cool with me, just don't be a dick, and me and you're probably going to be cool. So this guy was being loud and obnoxious, and, as the night went on, he was getting drunker and drunker, being louder and louder. And he was asked multiple times to, either chill out or leave. So the last set comes up, and this guy's trying to do a set, and he's just being really loud. And I was like, and they asked him to leave again. He don't leave. And I looked at the guy, and I said, I got you, bro. The guy that runs the show. So the guy got loud again, and I turned around, and I very nicely said, hey, won't you shut up? You're being very rude. Very nicely. And he did not like that, which was weird. So he jumps up like he's going to beat me up. So I jumped up, and I was like, well, let's do this thing. And he was like, maybe not. And so we ended up, I was like, man, I just overreacted. They're going to be really mad because I did that. The people run the show. But they was like, thank God you was here. Like, that was awesome. You did that. But I thought, man, I might have messed up. Because my redneck can come out pretty quick. You know what I'm saying? So that happened on Wednesday. Nothing really happened on Thursday. And so I ended up going on a date Friday night. Had a really good time, man. So a couple cool things happened Friday night that you'll get a kick out of. I went to my first drag show Friday night.
Really?
At the Stonewall in Huntington.
Okay. Okay.
I was on a date, and she was like, let's do something crazy tonight. And I was like, you know what? There's a drag show. Let's go to it. I don't care. And I heard all these war stories, like these people were going to be grinding up on me and rubbing my head. But nobody did that. Everybody was cool. Like, it was funny, man. Like, it was actually a little bit of fun. I mean, it wasn't a blast like everybody acts like it is. To me, it wasn't. But it was okay. It didn't bother me none. My biggest question was, and I don't want to be filthy, but I was like, where's their cock at? And that's not being patronizing. I can't find it anyway. But something else happened Friday night that was really cool. It has to do with the podcast, actually. I was driving to pick my date up over in Ohio, and I got pulled over. The guy says I didn't give a signal when I switched lanes. He's like, hey, man. But he was really cool. And he's like, you didn't give a signal when you switched lanes. I was just going to pull you over and make sure everything's all right. I was like, yeah, everything's cool, man. He goes, hey, man, I really dig your sticker you got on the back of your vehicle. He goes, what is that? Just Add Bourbon. I said, oh, man, that's the podcast I do. He goes, oh, you all just talking about bourbon? I said, no, we talk about a little bit of everything, bro. Just tune in and check it out. And so he ended up subscribing right there on the spot.
Really?
He was like, what do you want? You on iTunes? What do you want? And I was like, oh, I'm on iTunes. I pulled my phone up and I showed him our logo. He took my license. He came back to me. He goes, hey, man, here's your license. I've already got you put in on my phone. We'll check y'all out later on tonight. So I got some new listener Friday night. And got out of a ticket. He didn't give me nothing, man.
That's
Just sent me on my way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, look, I got to go back on a couple things here.
Okay.
All right. And, I mean, it's incredibly cool that you got out of a ticket because of our Just Add Bourbon logo, and we picked up a new listener who's a cop, and that's always good because we love the police on this show.
But I know where this is going.
But you were at a drag show, and full disclosure, I have been to one.
Okay.
I was in college. I worked at Goody's Family Clothing, and there were some guys that we worked with there that were gay, and they dressed in drag. And I was always cool with those guys, and there was one that dressed up like Dolly Parton all the time and was freaking smoking.
Yeah.
When he dressed in drag, he was smoking hot. Like, I mean, I was like, oh my God, am I gay? You know, like to the point. But anyway, they invited me out one night to come to a drag show. And it was in Lexington.
Yeah.
And they invited me up. And I like those cats. And it was me and a bunch of girls that we worked with.
Right.
And so we went. And I'm like you. I don't know what I was expecting when I walked in, but it wasn't that. Like, I was a little nervous when I went,
right.
but it wasn't that at all. I actually had a pretty good time. Those guys thought it was cool that I showed up, me being a redneck from Eastern Kentucky,
sure.
and sound like I do. And so, but ended up having a pretty cool time. But I did not walk around wondering where their dicks were. So, I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe somebody can tell us.
Well, they was wearing like, skimpy, look like bathing suit bottoms. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
really?
Some of these guys, yeah. And this one dude, like he was pretty as hell. I don't know how the way to say it. But I couldn't imagine him like being seen on the street and him looking like a dude. You know what I'm saying? Like he looked that feminine. Right. And I was like, this dude don't have a cock. He's definitely not in drag right now. You know what I'm saying?
The show I went to, they weren't dressed like that. They were dressed up like it was real over the top. Like people dressed like Dolly Parton.
They had those people too, but this one guy particularly, like I was like,
yeah, the time
I was kind of impressed. You know what I'm saying? Like
I ended up having a pretty good time, man. I said it was, we had fun. Nobody bothered me.
Right.
I was hanging out with these girls, and I don't know, I had a blast. So that is interesting. And it is cool, though, that we picked up a new listener just because of that thing that Brad made and put on the back of your vehicle. Yeah. So that means we're going to have to get some more of those and put them on our vehicles.
Just put them everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. So my weekend was very different.
Oh, by the way, I didn't get home till Saturday, just so everybody knows.
Just FYI, everybody. So every time I come over here, I realize that JD and I live completely different lives.
And they don't want me to get in a relationship, just so everybody knows.
Right, yeah. No, we live vicariously through JD. I mean, there's no question. I told JD the other day, I said, we're not ready for you to get serious yet. It's not time yet, JD. But no, so something that I went Friday night. It was Valentine's Day. I come home and took care of my Valentine's, brought the flowers home and all that. And we went to a high school basketball game here locally. And we have a really good high school men's basketball team. We have a great high school girls basketball team, too.
Yeah.
Both actually won the number 1 seeds in their districts this past week. And it just struck me being at that game, because I've been to most of the home games and some of the road games this week. When you have a good rival and it's an important game, there's nothing better than high school sports. Nothing. Like, even coming and watching you guys play football this year. Now, it was extra special because Chase was playing. We do this podcast. You're coaching. But I had a ball. I mean, like, I was acting like an idiot, yelling. I mean, I do that at the Kentucky football games when it's a really good game. I get real into it. And I was into the game, and I was sitting with a bunch of people that were into it, too, and we were all feeding off each other. But there really is nothing better than high school sports. I mean, Lance, I know you said you're into sports. There's nothing better than a good high school atmosphere.
Yeah, there's really not. I mean, I know you all probably heard me screaming, hollering, swarping at refs, at these games, and especially at the All-A tournament. Went to the Expo, and I'm not sure what the ref's name is, but I mean, I caught like wind of it, and I'm pretty sure it might not have been his name, but that was what I was calling him that night, and he heard me for sure. And what's really cool about high school, I mean, it's a condensed space. So, like, you have all these people and they're all excited. You have, all these different personalities and everybody in there just rooting for one thing, and that's to win. That's the most important thing is winning. And if you're, you're going out and supporting these people, going out and just having a good time, just watching your fellow classmates or your kids play. That's
the thing, man, that, with high school sports, those are your kids out there.
Yeah.
But those are the people that you went to high school with, kids out there. Mm-hmm. Those are the people you're in school with all the time. That's who's out there on the court. And so everybody is very passionate about wanting to see those people succeed.
Yeah, because most of the kids that are on the team this year, we've watched grow up in this community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's Chase's class, senior class, So.
And so you definitely have watched those kids grow up. Amy's had them all in school. Right. So I've heard about them. Where Amy teaches, we have to go to a lot of the ball games. She has to work. So I've watched a lot of these kids play ball growing up. And I don't know, man, it was jam-packed in there. It was a great environment. And especially for us, man, I've been to a couple games this year where it was just so boring. But then you get a game in there like that, and we played Paintsville, who is one of our biggest rivals. Yeah. And, Paintsville around here is like Duke for Kentucky basketball.
For sure. Yeah.
It's a private school. They're the preppy kids. They're kind of arrogant acting, and they're arrogant because they win a lot. I mean, they generally win, and it's been a long time since we have beat Paintsville and Johnson Central in the same year, and we beat Paintsville once. We split with Paintsville and beat Central twice.
Yeah.
And so, but it just stuck out to me, like when I left, like I almost didn't have a voice. Like that's how hard I yelled. And I was like, I'm at a high school basketball game acting a fool, and, but it ended up being a lot of fun. So a couple of other things, JD, as far as in Lance that we want to get into this week, this is a big, sports weekend. And,
the Daytona 500 is on right now.
Yeah,
man.
we got the Daytona 500 on behind us. And so let's kind of take these, we got the All-Star game, we had the dunk contest last night, there was some big Kentucky football news. So let's just kind of take these, individually and go through it. So the Daytona 500, and, I don't know how long it's been. I used to be a massive NASCAR fan. I mean, my dad and I growing up were very different people. We didn't really get along that well. I mean, we got along well. Once I had kids, we actually started getting along really well.
Right.
But
he was a knucklehead.
I was a knucklehead. I was an idiot, and he never would quit being my dad. He never would quit caring. So
no backing off.
Yeah. So, and he was a good man and a good father. But we had NASCAR in common. He loved it. I loved it, and we used to go to Bristol every year. We had season tickets to the day race and to the night race. We'd go down there and camp out. We'd drink some beers. I mean, we had a great time, man. And that when I think back on my old man, that was some of my favorite times with him was going to those NASCAR races. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed in the past few years that NASCAR really as a sport has declined. JD, did you ever really watch NASCAR? Were you into it at all?
No, not really. I knew that people were big into it. And, even just walking around the mall or something now, you don't see as many, NASCAR hats and flags and people's cars and stuff like that. So I could even see that it's on the decline. And I guess there's some new rules and stuff that's really a lot of people aren't happy about.
Lance, what do you think? I mean, why do you think there's been a decline with NASCAR?
I think a lot of really famous drivers retire. I know Dale Jr. was my favorite growing up, watching him and Jeff Gordon battle and Kyle Busch. And, I was a big NASCAR guy growing up. So basically, my first, I think I was in maybe 3rd, 4th grade, I got like a big varsity Dale Jr. Amp Energy jacket. I wore it all the time. I loved it. Had his T-shirts. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons. And plus, this whole new rules with like the stages. And I haven't watched it like heavily in a few years. Like probably it's been at least since high school. So it's probably been about 4 to 5 years. So I've really sat down and watched NASCAR consistently throughout the year and like kept up with the points and all this stuff. But like I know it was always just once the green flag went lap 1, just go to 500 in Bristol, however many in Daytona, and just go with it. But now all these stages, like I understand it from a standpoint of like, if it's kind of hard, you'd have guys like Kyle Busch who lead laps all the time. He'd leave like 100 laps in a race, and if something happened, then he wouldn't get much points from it because he didn't finish top 5 or win or anything like that. Which I get that from a standpoint of like, okay, that's cool. But like to me, I feel like all these rules changes kind of, it just, the traditional fan that you have, for many, many years just doesn't like change. I feel like that's just something in sports that like nobody likes a lot of change, and that's part of it,
Like, I remember Mark Martin and Dale Earnhardt and all those guys. And I'm looking at these names up on this. I hardly recognize anybody up there right now.
Right, well, me too. And I don't know a lot of these guys that are racing. I mean, like, I clearly remember where I was at when Dale Earnhardt died in the Daytona 500. I was actually, Clayton was in pharmacy school, and I had been to Alabama, down in Birmingham to see him, and I was driving back home, and I was listening to the 500.
I was a temporary Toyota.
Yeah, and he wrecked, died, and I was heartbroken. I mean, like, we were talking, I forget who passed away, and I was like, oh, was it Kobe? It was when Kobe passed, we were talking about people like that. Didn't, they died and you hated to hear that, but it didn't really bother you. But I remember Dale Earnhardt bothered me. Let me take this a little deeper, maybe a political, maybe even a tinfoil hat type thing, okay? And I thought of this, JD, and I thought, I want to ask JD this question. And he will, as I like to say, JD rolls his eyes at me all the time when I say stuff like this. But, one of the things that I saw, the average NASCAR fan is probably your working class type person, loves fast cars, loves that thing. And then under the Obama administration, you had, maybe some changes in even towards the tail end of George W.'s administration, and then what Obama inherited, that there was a decline in the middle class. And do you think that could have anything at all to do with the decline in popularity of NASCAR? Because the people can't afford to buy the tickets now. They can't afford to buy the shirts. It's, it's discretionary income, and they no longer have the money to spend it on events like that.
I'll step with you on this political thing. I think that we have 643,000 people filing bankruptcy every year because of medical bills. And so now the discretionary income, where's it at? Is it going to go to NASCAR or is it going to go to your medical bills?
Right, and that's a great point.
So I think it has a lot more to do with that than...
Well, personally, Lance, I think thanks, Obama. That's what I say.
Never seen that one coming.
You couldn't see that coming in a million years, could you, J.D.?
No, and I'll say this about me in vehicles. Like, I never was a car guy. I remember I had a Tahoe a few years ago, and I was getting my oil changed over at Inez. This old guy comes up to me. He had his hat on. You could tell he's just a good boy. You know, it's cool. And I was covered in coal dust and getting my oil changed. He goes, "Oh, I'll tell you what, the rear end of this thing, it'll pull the world, rear, this, that, and other. This engine's 5.3, son of a, whatever." And I was like, "Hey, man, the gas goes right back there." Yeah, that's all I know about it.
Well, I never knew anything about cars. I mean, my dad liked cars, but, as far, like I said, to me, it was as much about going my old man as it was actually watching the race. And maybe there's something to even like in NASCAR. What's on the hood, and you get to buy the gear, and it's almost like a tribal thing because you got a team. You know what I'm saying? And people seem to like that kind of thing. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely that to it. Look, how many Ford guys you know? And if you're a Ford guy, you're definitely not a Chevy guy, right? Period.
That's right.
And there's probably not $10 worth of difference in either one.
So, no, and I just found it interesting because it really has. I mean, when we used to go to Bristol, dude, you couldn't get in there. Like, it was hard to get seats, and now there's nobody there. I mean, there's thousands of seats available. And Bristol is probably one of the best racetracks in the country as far as going and watching a race because you can sit anywhere there and see everything.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing too is also it's been around a long time, and like other sports like basketball, football, baseball, they have a lot of moving parts. They have a lot of stuff that you can track like year to year out. You got a lot of people coming in. Like I mean, with just the Super Bowl, your Chiefs won.
That's right.
I was. And also, full disclosure, I've been a Pat Mahomes guy since coming to the league. And I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. I always have been, since Cam Newton at Auburn. And I was always like growing up.
Come on over, Lance. Water's fine, baby.
Hey, look, growing up, it was like a baseball house. My Aunt Martha Carroll, she loves baseball, basketball. I was always a college basketball kid growing up, but I got more into like college football and the NFL around Tim Tebow's time. And always Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are usually only two teams on. So like it wasn't like I was old enough to be like, hey, let's go get Sunday ticket. I really didn't know anything about that. Right. So, I watched Cam Newton at Auburn come in and I was like, yeah, it's my quarterback. But at the same time, it's like I just knew Pat Mahomes was like something I hadn't seen before. But also in terms of NASCAR, it's like it's really the drivers stay the same for 20 years. If they retire, then it's like, okay, my favorite driver's gone. And then like there's not a real team that you can get behind. I mean, I know you have Hendricks and Joe Gibbs and stuff like that, but it's like it's not really something that you can just keep track of year in, year out, and like there's a lot of moving parts, so like it's very tiring and not really exciting to keep up with as much as basketball, because college basketball we've always got kids coming in. You get I got 5-star recruits coming in all the time. You've got Alabama football, they're getting all these kids all the time. They're fun to watch, and you go watch them go to the NFL and they perform there on the highest level. But at the same time, it's like with NASCAR, it's just it's very repetitive.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're going around in a circle. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the next thing is this is NBA All-Star Weekend. The All-Star Game will come on tonight. And last night they had the slam dunk contest, and they had the skills challenge, which really I think is kind of boring. But our boy from Kentucky did win. Bam won. I'm a huge Bam fan, so I was glad to see that. 3-point contest. Devin Booker almost won, got beat by 1 point by Buddy Hield on the last shot.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty exciting. And then they had the slam dunk contest, and that is hands down one of the best slam dunk contests I've seen in years. And it actually ended with a little bit of controversy because they don't think the right guy won. And it was kind of like back in the day, in my day, when Jordan and Neek went at it, and it was just dunk after dunk after dunk. And then Dominique ended up losing. It was in Chicago. And so Jordan had the home, crowd advantage, I guess. But I mean, man, those dunks they were doing last night were nasty. And so I guess at the end, they don't score like they used to either, where they do like half points or whatever, like a 49.5 or you get a 9.5. It's just 10s. Gordon, what's his first name? Is it Aaron?
Yeah, I went for Arizona. He was a beast.
Yeah. He got robbed once before of a dunk contest title, and he got a 50 on every dunk that he had done until the last one. And he jumped over a 7'5" guy. Taco, what's his last
Taco
name?
Fall, yeah.
Huge. He jumped over a 7'5" guy, and they gave him like a 47. And so he was obviously pissed, but the judges were saying, look, we were just going to walk away and let him go. co-win. And I guess the NBA people told him, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, this ain't hockey. This ain't soccer.
No, yeah,
you gotta have a winner, right?
Yeah, I mean, the last time, the only thing I can think of, they had co-rookies of the year, like Jason Kidd and Grant Hill or something like that. I can't remember in the 90s, but...
they've done co-MVPs in the All-Star game. They've done that before. But no, I mean, it was pretty interesting because really, everybody was like, oh, Gordon's got this. He's got it. And it was a kid from Miami. What was his name?
Derek Jones, yeah.
Derek Jones.
Yeah.
And he was nasty, too.
Oh, he's a beast.
I mean, he was nasty because he was throwing some stuff down. He had a guy throw the ball off the backboard. He jumped over the guy, caught the ball, took it between his legs, and then didn't just barely dunk it.
Oh,
he destroyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, oh, my God. There were probably two of the greatest all-time dunks happened last night. The other guy, Gordon, threw one off the side of the backboard, caught it with his offhand, and then did like a windmill 360 and dunked it.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was like something out of
I mean, I can do it, but,
It's supposed to be impressive.
Right. JD's like, I did that yesterday.
Have you not seen the way I'm built? You know I can do that.
I think the greatest dunk I'd seen was the one he got beat on back when Zach LaVine beat him. When he jumped over his mascot, sat down in midair, went under his legs, and then dunked it. And that's just and what makes it so impressive is he's 6'10". He's not he's not a guard. He's a 6'10" forward who, puts up 18 and 9 or 18 and 10 every night or something like that. I'm not sure his exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure that's around where he's at. Really good player, But it's just crazy how, I think the first big guy that I seen dunk like that was Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Back in the day, because I was always a big All-Star Weekend guy back in the day, growing up. But now it's kind of a little bit stale, just because there's not really much to play for. I think the Rising Stars Challenge is really cool.
Yeah.
Well, they do World versus USA. I think that's awesome.
Can I just say I think it's great that Lance is 20 years old and he's like, yeah, back in the day, I used to be here.
Lance, right. I was watching the dunk contest when you were in diapers.
Yeah.
You might not even been born yet.
For sure not.
Yeah,
I was watching them.
The Spud Webb and Dominique.
Yeah, I wasn't even thought of yet.
Yeah, but I'm a big, I said when we talked about Kobe that week that I really do like the NBA. And it's so much, I always watched it. Because, being from Kentucky, you're kind of born and bred to be a basketball fan.
Yeah.
And now we've got all these Kentucky guys in the league. They just gave out a poster the other night at the UK game, and it was all the guys that are in the league. And it's like 40 people.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, and you had a lot of Kentucky flavor. You're going to have a lot of Kentucky flavor in the All-Star game tonight. All right, so let's stay on the Kentucky flavor.
Big week, flavor.
Big week for Kentucky football. So we thought we had, escaped when it was said that Vince Marrow, who is our recruiting coordinator, also our tight ends coach, and he has the title of associate head coach.
Deservedly so.
Call him the big dog. He is an insane recruiter, and he has brought a ton of talent to the Cats. I mean, a ton. And our recent success has been as much for Vince. And there was talk that Youngstown State, which is where they're from, him and Stoops both are from, came after him as a head coach, as a head coach, and he said no. And we thought, okay, we got past that. And then all of a sudden, another one of their friends takes the Michigan State job and comes after Vince and offers him some sick money to come up to Michigan State. And as I listened to KSR this week, and I don't know that I realized this, but a lot of the team, Michigan State's who we recruit against. A lot of the kids we get are the kids that Michigan State used to get. And so if Vince went there, he's going to be taking all the kids that we would normally get. You're talking about Bowden and Snell and Allen and all these kids that Vince brought in here that are now in the NFL. And Kentucky stepped up and brought the money to the table and said, Vince, and JD, I don't know. Been a long-suffering Kentucky football fan. We've made some big steps in the last few years, and I couldn't be more happy that they stepped up and kept Vince, because I think our next step is to take out Georgia. It's not going to happen every year, but our next step is to take out Georgia and end up in Atlanta in that SEC championship game.
Look, here's just the plain and simple facts about it. If you want to run in the SEC, you're going to have horses.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's bringing in better horses to Kentucky than Vince Marrow, okay? We got a great coach. We got a great staff. But you can only do so much with talent.
You got to have the players to coach, right?
You got to have the talent, okay? And so for Mitch Barnhart to step up and invest in the football, the program the way he has, man, I'm ecstatic. And I'm like you. We may not knock Georgia off every year, but we will catch them eventually.
Yeah.
And this is the best class we've ever had at UK. And look what Stoops has already been able to do, So at one time, you was happy to get 2- and 3-star recruits and coach those guys up. Now we're getting 3 and 4 star recruits.
And coaching those guys
up. Which ain't, everybody thinks, I've said this before on here, about football being a game of inches, right? There's a big difference between a guy who runs a 4.3 and a guy who runs a 4.7. And that's not a whole lot of time with your naked eye. When the football's in there, it's an eternity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I'm tickled to death, man. I'm excited for Kentucky football, the future of it. And I'm glad to have Big Dog in the house.
Me too, man. Lance, what do you think? You think it's a big deal?
I think it's a big deal because, of course, in the SEC, you've got Florida, who's going to be nasty this year. Florida's going to be nasty. You've got Georgia, who always competes. Alabama, who obviously has run the college football playoff until this year, which I do think Tua's injuries have part of it. And plus, if they would have beat LSU, they definitely would have been in, regardless, And I do hate that a team like Oklahoma gets in because I know for a fact if Tua's healthy, that even Mac Jones, I truly believe if Mac Jones plays Oklahoma's defense, that Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs and Smith would have absolutely torched them. They would have beat them 20 plus probably. And I know that, and I know go off topic a little bit, but for Kentucky, I think if Terry doesn't get hurt this year, we might win 8 games. And we lost a lot of guys last year. We lost Allen, who obviously was one of the best players in the country.
I almost feel like if we don't lose Terry, it's possible we win 10 games. Because Bowden's allowed to do what he can do out there. Terry was really starting to turn it on when he got hurt. And like I said, dude, JD, I'm like you. I'm ecstatic that the big dog is still a cat. And that may be the biggest recruiting get we've gotten.
Yeah.
Is keeping the big dog in Kentucky. So I'm pumped. I can't wait for football season to start. And when in the state of Kentucky, can you remember us talking about football in February?
not very often.
Kentucky played Ole Miss yesterday, and I didn't care nothing about that. All I was worried about is are we going to keep Vince? That's all I was worried about. So that just shows you the state of Kentucky football at this point. So let's kind of change off. It's been sports-centric for the most part. Let's kind of change topics, but we're going to stay in Kentucky. And one of our former guests, Dr. Madden, came on and talked with us. I can't remember what episode it was, JD, but it's been a few ago.
Yeah.
And he came in and talked with us about the legalization of medical marijuana in the state of Kentucky. And it came out this week that the bill that he's been pushing, he's been a part of, actually passed the House. They actually voted to pass it through the House. So it looks like the House Judiciary Committee. So we're one step closer to maybe heading in that direction. And I know that we all agree. I don't know about Lance, and we'll let Lance speak to that. But I know you and I agree that we think that's a good step.
For sure. So this bill, it's a House Bill 136, legalization of medicinal marijuana in the state of Kentucky. And what this does, man, it just really allows people who have suffered without medical marijuana to be able to have access to this drug. And these people that are epileptic and suffering chronic diseases, or in their last moments or last days of their life, to find some relief and be able to stay conscious. And now what this bill did have in it, though, there's no smoke. It's not going to be smoke form. This is only pill or liquid form. So, but still, it's a great step for the state of Kentucky, even if not from a taxation standpoint, from a humanity standpoint, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. To me, I watch Joe Rogan's podcast too, and they talk a lot about psychedelic drugs on there. That's kind of because Joe Rogan, he's done them before. He's experienced a lot of crap, and if you watched it, kind of know. But I think it's huge because, like JD said, it's a humanity thing. I know there's some people that definitely want to either eat like a, I don't know, you said it's a pill or a liquefied form, right? Mm-hmm. A pill or a liquefied form of marijuana is probably definitely better than taking like a Lexapro or something, or just that kind of medication. No, and it definitely, and it definitely would help with. I think probably not as much. I'm sure addicts, if they're an addict, they're probably going to stay that way. But people who, I know a lot of people who get in like these diseases, they'll have these medications, they'll get these prescriptions, and then they do get addicted. Sadly, it's just that's kind of how the world works. But that would definitely help them in some way. But also, I know I've done a lot of research myself, just looking up. Like, there's this woman, I don't remember where she was from. She microdoses LSD every day before work because, like, she has very bad, like, anxiety or something like that. Very chronic disease she's had a long time, and it's an experimental treatment. It's not something that, like, everybody does or anything, but it's just something that, like, these drugs that, like, are not legal and people don't normally do them, like that. But there's a lot of benefits, some of them that we need to research, and I think definitely medical marijuana is one.
So one of the things that's stopped us for so long is it's been a Schedule I drug. Okay, and some of this research that needs to be done with medical marijuana hasn't been able to take place. But what we do know is the cannabinoid receptors in our brain work differently than the opioid receptors. And so the chances of addiction are much lower, which is, I think, win-win. Correct.
I wanted to ask you, because I noticed you posted about that on our Facebook page, and there was a guy, I believe his name was Dan Dillon, that had commented that this was just how did he phrase it?
Just the House Judiciary.
Yeah, it was the House Judiciary, but it was almost like it wasn't real.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't real. And I mean, that's fine if that's his opinion. That's okay. Sure. But do you think that it's that? Like, I know you had mentioned that Carrie, if she's following this, maybe could respond to that. I don't know if she ever did.
She never did clear up what we was talking about. But he was asking if it still had to go to the House floor. But the votes were there in the House floor. It's not been able to get out of committee this whole time. That's been the problem on this bill. We think we have the votes on the floor to get the bill through. And they actually passed the Judiciary Committee 17-1. And the one lady who voted against it had to be carried out of the building.
Oh,
she got so upset. But from what I hear, she's bought and paid for. So
well, there you go, right?
Yeah.
So, and I found this will go off topic just a little bit, but I was thinking about this. Right? Okay, I thought this is a good step, and I was thinking, Beshear's our governor now, and I had some personal experiences the past couple of weeks going into some meetings with the water district and things with some of the high level people there, which went really well. And but I started thinking about Beshear and his policies. And I said, it's funny. Most people hated Bevin because of his take on education, right? I actually agreed with Bevin on his education. And I'm totally against what Beshear's doing with education as far as the funding is concerned. I think it's the wrong track. But I actually agree with him on the sports betting and the legalization of medical marijuana. And I thought, how funny. And it just struck me as being funny as most people that were against Bevin on the teacher's pension issue would be against Beshear on the medical marijuana and the sports betting. And I'm the exact opposite. And I don't know. I just thought, I found that funny to me.
Well, I think what you're doing that a lot of people aren't doing is they're wanting to be lock and step with the party instead of looking at the issue and saying, does this make sense for Kentucky? And that's the difference between what you're doing and what most people are doing. Mm-hmm. You can disagree with Beshear about the issue, not because he's got a D beside his name. The people who are disagreeing with Bevin over education and agreeing with him on medical marijuana and the sports betting, which Bevin was against, is because, first off, he blatantly came out and made an absolute ass out of himself with his remarks, and they had to turn away from him, no matter what he had beside his name. And what you have done is been able to go by issue and disagree, and kudos to you, man. Good. Well, even if I don't necessarily agree with what you say,
right?
But at least you're able to move past the party line.
Right. I don't care about the party. Honestly, man, I don't care about the party.
I agree with you. I know you don't.
And Lance, you're young and maybe not into politics as much as, say, we are. But
I'm so I follow them. Like my mom's very political, so I've been in the house with her. But at the same time, it's like I've always been someone who just looks at it in terms of does it make sense. I'm not real big on the party. I just think the party system as a whole is just broken.
I do too.
I think it's broken.
Be honest, JD, I don't mean to interrupt you, Lance.
Yeah, you're fine.
You told me that Lance was going to come over today, and I thought, oh, God, this is payback for me. Because I know Samantha's a liberal. Your mom's a liberal. Love you, Sam. I say that with love. And I thought, I'm going to get this week what JD gets every week with me and Brad. But no, and I've always said that, though. And JD's like this, too, and we'll disagree on a lot of things, but we try to take issues individually. And I'm kind of like you, Lance. That's actually, for your age, that's very forward thinking, and I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully, we, as the generations come up, it's an issue thing. It doesn't matter. I'm like you. I almost think the DNR thing's broke anyway.
Yeah. Well, outside of the people with the power, I feel like everybody thinks the DNR parties are broken. Mm-hmm. Like, unless you're one of the guys calling the shots, if you're looking at the system and you're thinking this is working for us, then you're looking at a different system than I am. Yeah. Because any casual observer can see this is not what the forefathers had in mind when they wrote this.
Right, and the ability to have civil discourse has just gone away. You can't have a decent argument without somebody just getting so mad at you. Oh, yeah. JD and I, 2 weeks ago, got into it over the thing. We actually cut it out of the show because we actually got aggravated with each other. Now, once that was over, we were done.
Yeah.
we were good, but we disagreed and strongly disagreed. And, and it was one of those things where it got even a little further for us than what it normally does. That's the first time that's ever happened. And so, but like I said, but we're big enough people where we can go by and say, hey, we don't agree. It's all good. We man-hugged it out and we're all good. So, and I'm like you, Lance. I think that is, if you can take things issue by issue, I think that's great. And but it just struck me funny. I was like, man, I am the complete opposite of what the people that, I really did. My wife's a school teacher. But what Bevan did with the pension was the right thing to do, in my opinion. He's an idiot. He got himself beat because of saying the things he did about teachers, which was stupid.
Yeah.
And he can say what he wants. He got himself beat because of his mouth. He thought he was Donald Trump, and he's not. He's not.
No.
Trump can say things, and you're like, oh, okay, but Bevan just insulted everybody when he talked. But anyway, that struck me as funny. I didn't mean to go that direction.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah.
That just struck me. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Democratic primary, and I've got a couple of different ways I want to go with this, fellas, as far as number one, it was New Hampshire. You had Sanders with a narrow win over Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete. You had Amy Klobuchar actually showed really well and made a big push. You had Sanders just leave because Biden just leave because he was going to do so bad. And then he made the statement, well, I'm going to go somewhere where the population is more diverse. All these white people, in New Hampshire and Iowa don't like me. And then you had Yang drop out, Bennett drop out, and then there was some other guy dropped out that I didn't even know was in the race.
I'll say. Yeah. Duval,
I think it was. Yeah. So I didn't know. But the question, and you guys can respond to, what you kind of think that means as far as the primary. And I don't know what it means. You've got a whole lot more of these things to go, and you've got Super Tuesday coming up. It'll become more clear. I feel like Sanders right now is kind of in control, but Mayor Pete is really sniffing, which is surprising to me. And then you've got Amy Klobuchar, who's actually stepped up, and it's surprising to me that she's where she is.
I really thought that Amy Klobuchar's performance Tuesday should have been the story coming out of New Hampshire, even though Bernie had first off, Bernie's ground game right now was better than everybody's, right?
Yeah.
But Amy Klobuchar beating Warren sends a clear message. I mean, to me it does. Now, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but this Democratic Party just wants to get behind Elizabeth Warren and make her winner. But the people don't seem to want her. And now Elizabeth Warren is saying, I'm the candidate we can all get behind. And we need to not have this debate all the way to the convention, which I totally agree with. And I think was the problem with last time. You've heard me say it a bunch of times. They picked Hillary out last time and just didn't give Sanders a shot. This time, I'm not sure they're going to be able to force Sanders out.
Yeah, no, because it is clear to me anyway that Lance, they're trying. They don't want Bernie to win.
You don't want Bernie.
Oh, yeah. I've kind of caught on to that. And plus, I mean, in that debate, however many weeks ago it was, I know we talked about it in my crisis communication class, because what it is, we basically talk about like how to handle a crisis. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. But when Elizabeth came out and was like, Bernie said a woman couldn't win. Yeah. Ever since then, it feels like to me, Bernie's and her, and I think her intent was, regardless of whether he really said it or not, because I mean, you never know. We'll never know if somebody who ever said it or not. But ever since then, it seems to me that Warren just went down and Bernie's went up. And I know that that's not necessarily probably what the party wanted, because I feel like, and I know back in 16, I think it was 16 or 15 when Trump and Hillary run against each other.
16.
Yeah, when Hillary and Bernie was going at each other trying to get the primary. Mm-hmm. He was on ABC News interview, can't remember who with, but he was talking about how like we should go back to like a monarchy. He's a really like his ideas, and I know AOC talked about this at one of his rallies too. They always talk about like a political revolution, and like to me, like I mean that sounds cool. I mean if like we talk about everything being broken, like but at the same time it's like you kind of really it's at this point in time we're not trying to do that right now. It's not something.
Hey Sam, what are you doing to me here? No, you're right. I mean, your point's well taken, but I think the political revolution he's talking about is having fair tax brackets and things like that.
Right, yeah, I know, I get what you're saying, but it's just like, I know that to just the normal part, like to somebody who just hears that, that's something they just take like, oh my God, that just sounds
like
good.
Saying, we need to make America great again. It's a campaign slogan.
Right.
Start a revolution.
Yeah.
Make America great again. We want change, Obama. But now here's what Sanders has got going for him this time he didn't have last time. his name recognition is so much higher. Mm-hmm. He's a built-in household name. He really never left the public eye since the campaign against Hillary, which is good for him. Now, let's talk about Mayor Pete for a minute. And I think we talked about this last week, but wow, what a charismatic guy, man. And I don't think you can put a number on how much charisma leans into your electability. And poor Joe, man. I thought he was going to be our guy, but
he's done.
See, and
his strategy is not good. It's never worked.
So let me go, because I want to take this. The wild card here is Bloomberg.
Sure.
He's not been in one of these primaries yet, but he is venturing, or he's hovering out there over everybody.
Yeah.
And then there was some news came out yesterday that he wanted Hillary to be his running mate, which to me would be the biggest mistake in the world. But because I think people are done with Hillary.
Yeah, she needs to go away.
Yeah, she just needs to go away.
She's got to go, man. I'm 20 years old and I know she's got to go.
But JD, what's your thought on Bloomberg? Like, do you think? Because what I see, even with like Biden and maybe even Warren and some of these other people, because if you look at the top three, Sanders is an old school guy, right? He's been around for a long time. Mayor Pete's a fairly new name, kind of like Obama was, really.
Yeah, sure.
Klobuchar has been in the Senate, but still as far as on a national level.
She doesn't have that name recognition.
Sure. Fairly new name, that maybe people, and even with Trump winning, the people are kind of like, look, we're kind of done with these politicians running our country. They've been up there for 30 years and nothing happens. Our system's broken. Maybe we want a businessman, somebody that knows. I think Brad maybe even said that last week, is maybe we want a businessman to come in that can run a business and do that thing. And Bloomberg kind of seems to fit the bill.
He's that guy, for sure.
Yeah.
So do you think that he is a legit candidate? Do you think he's going to get in the race?
I don't. I think it's just got a bad strategy. I think what Bloomberg is doing is pretty smart. And that he's setting up all this grassroots projects all over the nation. So when the primary or the general does come, he says he's going to let the party use all this. And so he's pumping in, I think $125 million was the last number he had used already.
It's a lot of money.
And that's chump change to him, man. It's like, man, you go get the burger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But no, I don't think he's a real threat. I think it's interesting to see him and his strategy and what he's doing. I think this is, honestly, he's trying to take some heat off the other candidates, and I think Donald Trump is going right for it, man.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
This might be the first time that Donald Trump's been duped a little bit.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, like, I don't get the whole Bloomberg thing. I'm like, get in. If you want to run, get in.
Right.
But Trump has started to focus a little bit on Bloomberg and Little Mike or whatever he calls him, and maybe kind of lost, sight of what's going on with the other candidates. And maybe that's the plan. I don't know. Yeah. It's a good point. I really hadn't thought about that necessarily. Lance, you got any take on that?
Yeah, I do think it's a little like like I said, I've been really busy with earlier we was talking. I've been really busy with school the last few weeks. I haven't been able to keep up as much as I want to with the whole Bloomberg thing. But I do think it's interesting though. At the same time, we was talking about Mayor Pete. I think Mayor Pete. I honestly, before any of this, when they had 23 or 40, I don't even know how many we had, probably 30 or 40 candidates coming up. I was a big Cory Booker guy because of his charismatic. I liked it. I thought he was really brought a lot of energy. I liked him when we had all kinds of hearings the last few years. So he was on there on the Senate with the chairman and all that stuff, talking to these guys, and he showed a lot of energy and stuff. And I was with that, and I liked his whole. He was a very big immigration reform guy, very big marijuana legalization guy. I was like, okay, I can get behind that. But of course, then him and Joe got into it, and then he blacked out. But now, Buttigieg, I think I really do think it surprised me how much he has shot up, because I know preliminary polls I've seen a bunch. It was always Biden, Sanders, Warren, and now it's gotten to the point where it's Sanders, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, in the primary. And I know Buttigieg's got 22 delegates, Bernie's got 21.
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that, I'm pretty sure. But it surprised me. It really did. I didn't really expect that to be. I honestly expected Bernie to win because that's kind of his territory, Vermont. It's up there towards the New England part. Yeah, that's his battleground. So you expect him to kind of win those states, especially now that he's, like you said, a household name in the Democratic Party. And he has been for a long time. But in terms of running for president, anyhow, like you said, talking about Hillary as a running mate, I don't think that's a good idea at all. Because for me, somebody, like I said, when she ran the first time in 2008, I'm pretty sure that was her first time running, wasn't it? Was it 2008 against Obama? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was young.
Clearly don't like her.
I'm just
Trump beat her.
Right. You're right. And that's what I'm saying. the whole, we can get into that or not, but the whole strategy of Hillary running the last time was to make sure Trump won the Republican nomination. You guys know that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the only person in the polling that she could beat out of that whole ticket over there.
Yeah.
So, which was for her, and she still couldn't get it done.
Yes.
So, go away.
Yeah, just go away.
And I know this is a little bit off topic, but like with all the Epstein stuff coming out last year, I was huge in that. You can ask anybody who knows me, I was real big and like the whole thing.
We talked about it a couple times.
We talked about that a few times.
Right, yeah. So like, and with Bill being really close to him, and I've shook Bill's hand. I don't know if Mom ever told you this. When Hillary ran in 2008, he was in Williamson in the firehouse. He was campaigning for her. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Bill Clinton, great guy. I'm like 9 years old. Like, all I know is like, it's former President Bill Clinton. I'm going to go up there and shake his hand. So I shake his hand and I'm like, and now that like I know all this stuff, and of course I'm not going to know that stuff at 9 years old. I'm not going to know he was running around with Jeffrey Epstein in the 90s, with all these girls and with that old Virginia girl going to see Prince Andrew on a Saturday night or something on a plane. But it's just like, for her to be involved with somebody for that long, like, I just feel like, I know it's probably a lot about politics and money and stuff like that, but for me, I feel like if I was her, I wouldn't want to be in that situation. Because obviously, I feel like she probably would know what Bill was doing. I mean, if you fly on a plane with 27 times with a dude, your husband, like, I mean, you know this kind of thing. So, I don't know.
You're killing me, Lance. I thought this is my week. This is my break week, man. This is supposed to be getting
I'm just saying. I'm just talking about like I'm just,
you're right.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, man.
It's just really hard. Like, I'm a big, like, if I could vote for, I definitely would have voted if I could have voted at this point. I was a big John Kasich guy.
JD loved Kasich.
I was a big Kasich guy because I felt like, Ohio's economy was booming at the time.
He was in the middle, man. Like, he wasn't crazy either way.
Yeah, he was just a real solid dude. And I thought at this point, if you're going to move off Obama, just get somebody solid. Because I feel like now, and truly, and I don't know how y'all both feel about this, I feel like there's not a shining star in either party. Now I feel like
there's not.
Like, there's really not. We had, when George Bush came out, we had Obama. Very bright young senator, had the DNC speech in 2004. One of the best speeches, I think. It's a really good speech. Yeah,
that's what propelled him to...
Yeah, so then the Republicans had to find somebody. They had Jeb Bush. I mean, he wasn't going, you had John Kasich. You had a bunch of guys. But then you had Trump come in, big polarizing figure. Somebody who just didn't care to say what he thought. And people like that. People like that kind of thing of, hey, like, he's for us, like, he's just stick it to the man kind of guy. Which I've never thought he'd win in a chance in the world. I would have bet $1 million. If I had $1 million before that point, I would have bet it all saying he wouldn't win. But, he won. And now we're at the point where we have to figure out somebody if in the Democratic Party that can go up against him truly and win. And I thought Biden was it. I did. I thought Biden was it, but now it doesn't seem like...
Yeah. He keeps spinning his wheels, and he just can't seem to get any traction. And you guys know I lean pretty far left on a lot of the issues, but I couldn't vote for Hillary. Even I couldn't get behind that. As much as I didn't like Trump, I ended up voting for Gary Johnson, the third party candidate.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I was just...
Right.
My papa, he, on my dad's side, he was just talking about... he's a Democrat, too. And, like, my dad's side of the family, until Trump, my dad's a real big Trump guy. He loved Bill Clinton and stuff in the 90s. He was great. But, like, he told me, yeah, I know. How do you love Bill Clinton and then go love Trump? I don't know. But...
Basically the same guy.
But, like... And my papa said, I wrote in Willie Nelson. I didn't want to, vote for anybody. It was just one of them things.
So I want to take this. This was not on our list of topics, but it just came to my mind, and I wanted to ask you about this, JD. You made a post on Facebook, and it was something, I'm going to post this, but I know most of my friends aren't going to read it. And it was about this site or this guy that would write these satirical things with these kind of crazy headlines, and people would share them all the time. But then when you opened it up, if you actually opened it and read it, it said, this is satire, this is fake, all that, and it got shared like a crazy amount of time. So I thought it was important to actually bring that up for this very reason. If you're listening to this, it's what we talk about just being so in line with your party, and if it says what you want it to say against the other party, whether that be Republican or Democrat, because that was more, like skewed towards conservatives, like are idiots, and they just send this stuff. That happens on the Democratic, the liberal side too.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a lot of the problem, especially with social media, is not actually taking the time to open it up and read what it says, and just taking a headline and forwarding that.
Well, what the guy talks about in that article is confirmation bias, which you've heard me talk about on here before. And, the people see these headlines and they're like, oh, absolutely, screw Nancy Pelosi. She can't take the money from Medicare to spend on the impeachment. No, she can't because she can't. She's just the Speaker of the House. But I've seen that shared 100 times. One of the articles that he actually built and shared, got all these shares, was about Trump getting the extra term because of the impeachment process.
Yeah, I saw that.
And how many times I've seen that on my timeline? Probably
I did too.
1,000 times.
I did too.
And I even shared it, making fun of the people that were sharing it, and they shared it again. So if you did that, you're dumber than I thought you was.
Well, and that's the point, right? Is look,
just take
don't be sheep. Take a minute, click on it, and see what it's about before you even begin to share something like that.
It's from Babylon Bee or some news source that's. What's the one that cracks me up? Oh man, what is it called?
Now we all like Babylon Bee.
Babylon Bee's a good one, but it's like toast is going to toast or something like that. It's like something ridiculous. Like they never put anything real on there, but they share these articles, and people in elected official positions in this county or running for big positions in the state from this county share these articles. It's like there's no way that's a real thing.
It's not real. And I don't know if we talked about this last week. It doesn't matter. I'm going to say it anyway. So the most shared story in like 2016 was this story about Trump sending his personal plane over to the Middle East to pick up these soldiers and bring them home. That was the most read story on the internet, and it was complete BS. There was no truth at all to it.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, one of the things, Brad and I talk about this a lot, is you got to make sure, because I don't watch mainstream news anymore, because it's all of it is pushing you in one direction or the other.
Yeah, 1,000% agree.
There's something there. So I read, I'm like you said it when you came in, Twitter is a big news source. That's where I get a lot of my news.
Yeah.
I click on links, but I make sure I read that stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't really share a whole lot.
Yeah.
But JD, I thought that was important, and I like that you posted that. And I like the way that you kind of led into it. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to bring that up because if anybody that listens to this podcast gets anything at all from this podcast is, look, take a second, read the articles. Don't share just something because it says what you think or like what you want it to be. Take a minute and read. Do a little research.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. Like, with Twitter, you get on Twitter and you see something trending, you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to share this, retweet this, and then it gets all these retweets, and then it turns out it's not true. And like you said about mainstream news and stuff, it's hard to watch the news. Like, okay, for example, I know Hillary's emails was something that you see on Fox News for a long time. It was always on there. He was talking about it. I think it was back in like 2017. I think it was around New Year's of 18. I think it's when it was, and I was at my girlfriend's house, and Fox News was on the TV, and there was like a big thing 2 years after the election, and don't get me wrong, I heard enough about her emails during the election. I don't really care at this point. Trump's won already. It's over with. I don't care.
He's still your president.
Yeah. Like, there was a big bracket showing all the emails, how they got from here to here and here. And I was like, man, I don't care anymore. It's over with. And then plus CNN, I know they talk about, and I'm not a Trump fan by no means, I'm not really at all. I just think it's not necessarily about policy because I feel like whether you're a Democrat or Republican, wherever the Senate and House control, that's just how the system is, how it works. You can argue and you can disagree with policy, but how it is, you can't really be mad that a policy gets passed. It's just how the system works. But in terms of what he does, just his actions, that's what I don't like about him. But he could do something that, just anything wrong at any point, CNN or wherever will be all over him over it. And I just feel like it's wrong. There's even if he was doing something good, it would just be like,
absolutely,
this guy sucks. And I'm not.
Well, they just wouldn't mention it at all.
Right, yeah, or they wouldn't say it.
Right, all right. So speaking of Trump, I found it interesting this week that A.G. Barr comes out and says, it makes it really hard to do my job. When Trump tweets to the DOJ or tweets about the DOJ, and I thought, you're right. That's the one thing. Now I'm a Trump lover, okay? I love Trump.
Yeah.
But it annoys me sometimes what he tweets. I'm like, dude, just stop. You're doing a good job with the economy. Just do that. But he really did. And I think it was over Roger Stone, right? It was over that the sentencing, which I have no clue. I'm not a lawyer. And whether it was harsh or not, I have no idea. I didn't really look into it. Right. But I just found it interesting that Barr came out and really went against Trump because, I mean, all you hear is, Barr's Trump's guy.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stuff come out. People were saying, well, Trump and Barr planned that for him to come out and say that. So, JD, what's your take on it?
Well, I think that he needs to stop making it normal to direct policy with his Twitter account. After he tried to invoke executive power or executive privilege the same way during the impeachment process with the Twitter. That's not how our government works, man. When our Department of Justice says, hey, man, the sentence needs to be, we suggest a sentence of 7 to 9 years for this crime, then the president goes, it seems a little bit harsh. And then they come back and say, maybe it was a little harsh. I think we got a problem. But then, I mean, Barr back at him. I'm not sure if it's real or not. Could be, could not be. Don't know. We won't know. We'll never know. But I just think it's a dangerous thing because we have checks and balances. We have people do certain jobs for a reason. I don't want our president to extend his power. Yeah. I don't want Obama to do it. I don't want no Democrat to do it. I don't want no Republican to do it. He's not a king. And if you want a king, man, you're completely against me because I don't want one.
I get what you're saying.
So I just think it's a dangerous example that he's setting, man. I don't think it's good.
And Lance, you're in the generation where, like you said, we just said it. Most of your news comes from social media, and I almost feel like Trump figured something out before everybody else did. I actually agree with JD on you cannot claim executive privilege on Twitter.
No,
it's not how it works. That is not, and I'm real big on like the way, the way it's supposed to work and all those things. And I actually agree with you on that. We've got some common ground there. But in today, a lot of people, that's where they're getting their information is Twitter. And he has circumvented the media and everybody else by talking directly to the American people through social media. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's genius or if it's stupid. I'm not sure.
Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but like to me, I feel like it was genius for him because he won. In terms of what he wanted to accomplish, I wanted to be the president. Like that was his goal. I feel like for him it was. But I feel like for me, the president should use Twitter in a couple ways. One, if something happens like a tragedy, say something about it like, we're here for these people and this and that. I know when they won the Super Bowl, he said, shout out to the people in Kansas, even though Kansas City's in Missouri. But, just those kind of things. And plus, maybe a policy is we're doing this and showing numbers or something. That would be awesome. But, when he comes out and he calls Kim Jong-un a little rocket man and,
You don't find that entertaining?
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I find that really entertaining. I don't know about, maybe that's just my sick mind. But
and it's just, to me, I just feel like it's just a dangerous precedent just because now people, I guess of my age, that's what they may expect to see. A lot of the times there's a guy coming up being like...
It's actually a really good point.
To me, I think it's the highest diplomatic position in the world. You're probably the most powerful person on planet Earth. And I feel like you should just conduct yourself in a certain way. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say, I might disagree with his policies, and I'm not going to say he's absolutely the worst guy in the world, but I'm just saying, I feel like he figured out if I act this certain way, then I'm going to get people aroused and get people excited.
I'll answer the question, Jimmy Don. Is it entertainment? Absolutely. Because that's what Trump is. He's an entertainer.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be really boring when he's not president anymore because, dude, he is the greatest troll of all time.
Yeah, but he should. I don't necessarily think our president ought to be a troll.
That's a good point.
I mean, that's actually a really good point, though. I mean, that's as far as it's really entertaining to me to read the things that he tweets. So I kind of like it. I really like the policies, the things that he's doing. I agree with a lot of his policies. I could do without the Twitter. I think he's still doing good work. I think he's working for the American people. This, again, it's my opinion.
Sure.
Right.
I think he's working for the American people. But I don't disagree with what you just said.
Right.
Our president shouldn't necessarily be a troll. Calling Kim Jong-un little rocket man on Twitter.
Attacking the mayor in Baltimore. Attacking the little...
Greta Thunberg,
I always say your eyes are rolling. And when Brad listens to this, his eyes are going to be rolling in the back of his head, right? No, I mean...
It's all right, Brad. Don't be sick.
So, but no, it's... you're right. In my opinion, you're right. Like I actually support Trump and support his policies and the fact that he tweets. At the same time, I find it entertaining, but it's not. The actions speak louder than words. I'm that guy. What's your actions and the things that you do speak louder than your words that you put out on Twitter per se in this conversation. So I'm going to support Trump either way. I'm always looking, like we talked last week, I've really been looking at the Democratic candidates, trying to see if there's anybody there that I could maybe get behind
Absolutely.
As a potential candidate that might that might change my vote.
Right.
I've yet to find that because I really do like Trump's policies. And we can go on about this all day, but we're running short on time, so I do want to get to one last thing. Did you guys want to say anything else about that?
Oh, just basically, I completely agree with where you're at. Like policies, I think it's completely okay. Everybody has their own opinion about policy and stuff. It's the Twitter thing. I think everybody can kind of get behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, last thing, and this is something JD had sent to me a couple of times, and then I will get in the weeds on this here. Okay. So, just want to give you the heads up, and let's get there. So, apparently, we've been picking up a signal from deep space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know as much about it, I think, as you do, JD, so I want you to kind of explain what exactly has been going on.
So, it's nothing new for us to pick up signals from space, or what I'll say, quote unquote, noise, right? What is uncommon is for it to be in a certain pattern. And this is what is different with this thing. It's coming from the next galaxy or a galaxy foreign to our galaxy, and we're able to pick this up. And the articles I've been reading on it says to send a signal this strong to reach us that we're able to pick it up, it would have to come from a structure bigger than the planet Earth. Which
the structure itself, almost like the radio tower.
Yeah, or the ship or whatever it is, it's going to have to be twice the size of the planet Earth, as far as our scientists or engineers can figure out. So I just thought it was one of these weird things that I didn't even hear about it. I've been getting on Twitter more and more, and it popped up, and I was like, "What is this?"
Listen, I love your Twitter game. I love that you're on Twitter. JD, all of a sudden I start seeing all these responses on Twitter that JD's doing, and I'm like, yes, because it's going to get entertaining.
Trump is the best troll of all time, but I may be in close second.
It was the one that you sent me. What was it? It was the Barstool Sports. The guy's and he was like, Jimmy, we need to make this
this becomes a thing. So these guys went out partying, and they did this jersey swap at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that needs to become a thing for sure.
So let me get out here in the weeds on you just a little bit, okay? And this is something that Brad has told me. I wish he was here to talk about it because I feel like I'm throwing him under the bus. But something that he has told me, God, since I've known him, and he and I have these conversations, is when the shoe's getting ready to drop on the powerful people in D.C., and there's a lot of talk about this Durham report and all these things getting ready to come out. You're getting ready, there's a lot of buzz on that. McCabe, was basically not charged with anything in the current, whatever they're currently investigating. And then you're seeing people say, well, that's because there's bigger crimes and, the shoe's getting ready to drop. Brad has always told me that when that time comes, you will start hearing stories about aliens and things from outer space. And so when I heard that, I think you sent me the article. When I heard it, I was like, okay, is Brad a genius? Is that what's happening right now? Is the shoe getting ready to drop? And so they're going to try to distract us with the talk of aliens? Do you think there's anything to that at all?
There could be. I don't know. Well, time will tell. He did mention this on here before. When Bob Lazar was on Joe Rogan, they had the Bob Lazar program on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched that too.
And the truth of it is, and I don't know if it's a effect of our world getting smaller because of the internet and we have so much information that more people are talking about space and aliens and things that, interest a lot of people, or they're putting in our psyche preparing us for something. I don't know, but it's definitely a possibility because when's the last time, before this year, I can't remember the last time I had a conversation about space.
Me neither. We've talked about it a few times on here. Space Force. Trump's created a Space Force, but I think that has more to do with satellites and people shooting rockets at us from outer space.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows, man?
Maybe this signal coming out is
we don't know
something else. Who knows? It's interesting as hell, though. It really is.
We're going to see. If it's to deter some attention. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's all to do with framing and agenda setting theory in terms of communication. So the media and stuff like that, they always, like we was talking about earlier, mainstream media will tell you, oh, Hillary sucks, oh, Trump sucks. It's framing you to think, you see these people like, oh, they're not any good for your party or anything like that. So with this you talk about world getting smaller, maybe they're preparing our psyche for it. I do think that's honestly a possibility because that's just really how information works. If you're foreign to any kind of information, all of a sudden a spaceship comes in here and sits right here in the front yard. Some dude 10 foot tall, big old black eyes comes out, like, oh my God. But since we're out here talking about space, we've always, had that kind of conversation, especially with those people going to Area 51. That was kind of crazy. Oh, off topic. But anyway.
That's what we do, man.
That's exactly what we do.
So, like, you're going to be...
we're prepared for it.
Yeah, more prepared, yeah.
Because I feel like news sources and, these magazines or whoever is dropping little hints. Even, media, with the Bob Lazar documentary, he's on Joe Rogan. Guys, Joe Rogan is not some little podcast.
Yeah, it's like probably, honestly...
it's the number one podcast in the world.
Yeah, it's insane.
It really is. But, I definitely think it's a possibility, man. We'll see. If there's always something going on in politics, so I'm not going to say it's because of McCabe or this, that, but we will find out. I don't know if we'll find out or not. We may never find out.
Right.
Yeah, I think
it's interesting, man. And I thought, we've been getting signals from space and nobody knows about it.
Right, yeah, it's crazy. Well, JD, I will tell you one thing I think we've learned tonight is if we need to get rid of Brad,
we're good. We know a guy.
We know a guy.
We got this, Brad. You go ahead and be sick.
Yeah, be sick, man. This is like, the quarterback that gets hurt and then loses his job.
Well, you're going to be Tom Brady, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Brad's Drew Bledsoe.
Man, I mean, honestly, I've really enjoyed having Lance on here. Yeah. It's we appreciate you stopping by, man. And don't you host a show? Aren't you a co-host of a show at the college?
I actually was like the co-anchor of Bear TV News. I'm in an intermediate broadcasting class right now. So like what we do is it's basically just we develop news packages every week or about every 2 weeks for like a monthly show. We do 4 shows a semester. He gives you a chance. Professor Andrew Reed, great guy, awesome. He kind of gives everybody an opportunity to do what they want to do.
Did you say his name's Andrew Reed?
Andrew Reed.
I know Andrew Reed.
Really?
Yes, I do.
A great guy.
Yeah.
So like. Gives everybody a chance to learn how to produce, how to do the teleprompter, how to be in front of a camera. And I've done it before. I've done sports anchoring for him before, and that's really the biggest reason because the dude that was supposed to be the co-anchor this past week was sick. So I got to fill in because I've done it before and I was experienced, and they wanted to have like a smooth show. And I get that, But like this week coming, I'll probably be in the control room doing audio and stuff and learning that kind of thing. But, yeah, I mean... I'm no foreigner to conversation. I'm a big conversation guy.
Well, you've done very well here tonight, and I appreciate you coming on.
So what you're saying is, if we ever, not if we ever, when we blow up, because this thing's going to blow up, a guy who can produce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know somebody we can call, right? Another Martin County boy. Get in here. But no, man, it was. It's been a great conversation tonight. Yeah. I've really enjoyed it.
Always, man.
Yeah.
Always.
JD and I say this all the time. We were saying it again, and we're so corny. Is that we would literally, if nobody listened to us, thank God people are listening to us, because I want people to listen.
Sure.
But if nobody listened, I think we would just get together and do this anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's just fun.
Also, shout out to the cop in Ironton. Appreciate you.
I'll tell you, real quick, I'll tell you a funny. First time I ever been pulled over was actually last semester. I'll tell you that quick story real quick. So basically, y'all been to Pikeville many times. The red light right beside McDonald's. That's like, okay, actually I take it back. The red light turning left to go towards McDonald's to go back out towards the 4-lane.
The little street right there runs across.
Yeah.
My office is right across the street from there.
Okay, so I was actually coming back from getting food. I just got out of class. I was chilling out, listening to music. And there's always that one point at red light, there's no return in a yellow. There's no time. You can't stop. You just have to go through it. And I mean, also in the Kentucky driving manual, I'm pretty sure it always tells you to just go through the light anyway, because you can't stop in the middle of an intersection. So I just... turn left. It turned red right as I got under it. So it was like, nothing was green, but I kind of couldn't stop. So I just go in, turn left, and then I see the blue lights. I went, oh my God, who's he chasing? So like I'm no joke, I'm driving like normal. I turn right. I was actually going to go through the back road down towards the old gym because I was going to go play ball that day. And he followed me. I was like, what's he following me for? So I pull in, I stop, he pulls me over, and I was like, oh my God, I just got pulled over. What'd I do? Comes over there, real nice dude. Can't remember his name, saved my life, but basically it was just like, yeah, man, you ran that red light pretty hot. And I was like, what? And I'm telling you, for the life of me, if you ever hear this, I'm pretty sure I didn't run that red light pretty hot, but, you know, it was his job. I figured out he was a new guy. So, and he gave me a ticket, and I never had a ticket before. Never knew anything about, I mean, just truly all I know, he's like, man, it's like a $20 fine. $20 fine, I mean, I get it, you know, I did something wrong. That's fine. Oh, God, okay, real quick. Yeah, there was a wreck in the pit rock stop. Yeah, I can't even talk. Anyway, so he reached me a ticket, $20 fine. I'm like, I put it in my dash, didn't even think about it. I called my mom. I was like, I just got pulled over, and he's like, you know, talking about this $20 fine. He was like, look at the ticket, and I was like, oh my God, there's a court cost. It was like $130-something. I freaked out. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that was just something funny.
What you should have done though is told him that you listened to the Just Add Bourbon podcast, and he'd have probably let you out of that ticket.
Now you know.
But you know, if JD hadn't told us that story, now we know. If we get pulled over, dude, do you listen to Just Add Bourbon?
And also, if you want to know why insurance is high on young boys, now you know.
Yeah. I mean, and then he gave me this big spiel. I was like, you know, talking about the number of deaths on my phone. I was like, man, I wasn't on my phone. I was just literally, because I have my truck out there has CarPlay, so I just literally plug my phone in, and my phone is on my truck, so I don't ever have to touch my phone. Right. I use Siri, I use voice command to do anything I need to do. If I need to like call somebody, I'll just touch my screen on my truck. It's not like I'm on my phone. Right. So like, I guess he just thought I was texting and driving or something, and then he was like, I'm not trying to be your dad. And I was like, dude, that's kind of weird. You're literally about 4 years older than I am. You know, like, it was a little funny, but.
Well, guys, another great show. We appreciate you guys listening. Lance, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
And, of course, you can check us out on Podbean. That's where we launched the podcast from. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. JD's running our Facebook page. Brad's running our Twitter. Check that out. It's always good content. And now we actually have a real Instagram page ran by Mr. Everybody. And you can check that out. He's putting some great content on there as well. But as we always end the show, from myself, from JD, and today from Lance, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it'll always get a little bit better. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.